was a good bye week. Had a chance to get some of our guys a little bit of rest. Got great developmental work with our kids that'll be building a program of the future, and a chance to get a little bit of a head start on Auburn, a very good football team. That another opportunity for us to play a ranked opponent, our fifth straight, in a very, very tough task. I think that they run the ball very, very well. They throw the ball in rhythm on time with the place they want to throw it in, and they got a group of players that are playing very, very hard for 4 quarters. So tremendous challenge. Good news is I think our kids every game have understood what we're asking them to do. They're buying into what we got a little bit more. We still don't have all the probably right ammunition to fight the right fight, but we're getting closer on a daily basis, and it's been a lot of fun.
First up, we have Bob Hope, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Hey, Brett, how you doing?
Good, Bob.
Hey, have you heard back from the SEC office on the film gate, whatever you want to call it thing?
Whatever you want to call it, but yeah, we heard back from. I heard back from them that day, and obviously the issue is being handled by the SEC, and that's about all I could say.
But I mean, has the issue been resolved? And were you satisfied with their response?
Really, other than the conversations that we had on Monday, hadn't had anything back yesterday or today. Just a couple correspondence to the league office, and that's all we can talk about.
Next is Nate Allen Sports.
So it's just as far as the off week, just what is the difference, do you feel, in your team now, or is there much difference than now and when you last played Alabama?
Well, I think the big thing, Nate, was obviously to get to, we played 8 straight weeks, to get a chance to get our legs back under us, to back off a little bit physically and mentally, and to be able to, take a good resolve of what we've done. Offense, defense, special teams, there's obviously been some things that have broken down that have prohibited us from having a win, but there's some positive things. Some kids playing their best football in week 8 that they continue to improve, and that's what we were looking for. Maybe a couple other guys that were not in the starting lineup, some guys maybe possibly that could give us something that we hadn't had yet on film, and some of those guys rose to the challenge. And really with these next 4 remaining games, the games that we're locked into play, they're going to obviously decide if we have a chance to play in the postseason, but more importantly, give us a good indicator as coaches what we have and what we need to recruit to and what we need to have for the future.
Also regarding the film, did you and Auburn have any conversations about it?
Myself, no. There were people on our staff, but again, that's all I did is notify the SEC on Monday morning when it came up. That was the protocol that I was instructed to do, and then that's where it lays.
Next is Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Hey, Brett, I'm wondering if in your tape study for this game, if you came across Trey Flowers' effort at Auburn last year, if you saw it in its entirety, what you thought of it.
Well, it definitely flashes every time that Trey takes the field. He's a kid that plays with tremendous upside, great motor. But yeah, in this game in particular, you saw him strain, compete. I think the other thing that jumps out is he's a different player this year. He's got more power, more strength. He's got a little bit of a more pass rush, some things that involve. He's always been a powerful guy, being able to get off blocks, but he's brought a new element to the game that I think is going to continue to grow here through the next couple of weeks.
When you look at a guy his size, I mean, he's not prototypical D-line or D-end size. What other attributes do you need to have if you don't have that prototypical size?
Well, I think with a guy that has the tools that Trey has, they'll find a spot for him. But the more that we can increase his mass, his size, and his durability, I think that's a key factor. And then the part that's been intriguing about Trey, as good a football player as he is, he's an exceptional student. He's an engineering major. He's got close to a 4.0 GPA. He can really handle a lot of things that your normal players can't, as far as just the nuances of the game. Maybe some special calls, some special keys that he can pick up on just because he is so intelligent. That's combine that with his athletic ability and his desire in his heart. That's a very special combination.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Next is Brian Bennett of ESPN.com.
Wanted to take it back a little bit to your roots with Wisconsin and Iowa playing this week, if you don't mind. With your kind of background at Iowa, along with Coach Alvarez, how much of what the success you had at Wisconsin was modeled after some of your days at Iowa?
The success we had at Wisconsin was really a combination of everything that I'd learned in the coaching profession. It started as a young player and an assistant coach at Iowa, and then a coordinator, co-coordinator at Kansas State, and then obviously a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. It kind of blended it all together. Took a lot of what we believed in during the days of growing up as a player, as an assistant, and then obviously what Coach Alvarez already had in place there. There was a lot of things that we carried forward, and some of the things we left behind. Started off with a whole new staff, and ironically, that first year when we were 10-1 to go to Iowa, and we had a backup quarterback, and a really unique situation to win that one on the road was a big deal. It really wasn't because against my alma mater. It was just the last game of the Big Ten season, which propelled us to 11-1.
Mm-hmm. And how similar do you think the philosophies are between the two programs, and maybe what the biggest difference was you saw being in both?
Well, I think first the physicality that both teams play with is a big part of the programs. I heard it from Kirk when I was an assistant for him, and carried that forward to the days when I was with Coach Alvarez. And the other part is I think those kids commonly are recruited against one another. A lot of times the roster, or half the roster that was at Iowa, when I was the head coach at Wisconsin, we'd either recruited or evaluated and vice versa. So it's kind of a friendly going back and forth between that two. And, to this day, probably Kirk Ferentz, the head coach there, I remember when I called him after I took this job here, and he made reference that he wasn't sorry to see me go because obviously we'd had some success and some great battles.
Great. Thanks a lot, Brett.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
This is Matthew Harris of The Advocate.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good.
I was going to ask, you mentioned in your opening statement kind of having to fight the fight with maybe some different tools, through this year. Just how many freshmen have you guys had to put out in game action this year? And if you can recall, just how much more or how many more is that than normal or than you anticipated, having to play this year?
I think we've had 9, if I'm not mistaken, 9 or 10 true freshmen play. We had 9 to 10 redshirt freshmen that hadn't really played, obviously because they were redshirted last year. But, to play close to 20 of those freshmen is something you're definitely excited about because you know what's coming, you know the way they're going to get trained, the way they're going to get coached. But on the same account, one of the things that we really pressed, and this week being our seniors' last game here in Razorback Stadium, the year has been about our seniors and paying them the respect and trying to get them to a year that they can hold their head high and know that they've improved. Some of those guys have been our best, not only players on the field, but our best leaders. So it's a little bit of marrying the old with the new, and it's a fun part to be a part of. Obviously, not to lose games hurts, but to see the growth and the development of these guys is what gets you excited and keeps the body going.